What's up, folks? We're back. This is Beer and Bullshit Volume 27 after a few weeks off. You're taking a little bit of time off, trying to get... I don't know. I went for a little vacation. What about you, Jason?
I sat around and got really lazy. We had a couple. I had some plans to do, and I want to do some mini podcasts in between, and never got around to it because just kind of hanging out.
What do you mean you had plans to do it? Like the plan was so well thought out. It wasn't just like a small plan.
I figured it. Anyways, hi,
hi, Jason.
Happy. Glad we're back. Glad we're back after many of our fans were clamoring. And many, as in like two, yes, clamoring for more episodes. It's funny how I saw people like downtown and they're like, hey, you haven't played one in a while. And those people are asking.
How many weeks has it been anyways?
It's like 3.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's not too bad. We've done worse than that before. We've gone on, like, I think that
the
people
Christmas
thought we actually got, like, canceled.
Yeah. Right? I don't think you get canceled when you do it yourself. YouTube canceled us. But no, actually, so I had a couple plans, but still things I'm looking at doing, which I think would be kind of fun for us to do. I guess not just I'm looking at doing, we're looking at doing. Do a couple different formats for this. Maybe try a bit of it, more of a. We can do one would be like a panel debate. Get a couple people on, get 2 or 3 people on. From a different, who have maybe a different perspective, and we can actually try a proper debate on a certain subject. Yeah,
you mentioned that to me. Like, I think that is something that could be interesting to our listeners. Just having some people who I guess we'd consider experts with differing opinions. But that takes time.
It does take time to set up.
To get these people and get the right people, right? You don't want, like, some really smart people and some people who have
not so smart. This guy.
Let's call them like underdeveloped opinions.
But no, I think that could be fun. And then
that would be fun.
Other idea was just to get myself and or just 2 people. There's me and you, or me and someone else, and have you as moderator or something. A single debate. People get to a couple days before we get people to give us ideas on what would be a good topic. And myself and John Belanger, or you and whoever, have essentially 1 day to get ready for, and you're going to get pro or con. We'll find out when time comes, and then you have to argue that point. Just kind of like a debate team.
See, I like this idea, and I would love to moderate a debate between you and John. But again, Kate, you remember the idea that we had about playing this game with John, where like he would just get all the hypothetical answers wrong?
Yeah,
we should have a debate like that where yes, okay, of course, Jason, you're right. John, no, again, wrong. I don't know why. I don't know where you did your research, but none of this is valid. Your viewpoint makes no sense.
Just to get them going.
Those are some ideas we have.
Some different things for that, and those couple different ideas, maybe just some more one-on-one interviews, but we can do that already as it is. So we get in depth as it is, just you and I with someone else. So no,
that's true. Yeah, it's all right. And speaking of one-on-one interviews, we have a very special guest joining us again tonight, returning. Our mayor, Steve Black. Yeah. He's going to come hang out with us. If he doesn't ditch us.
Yeah, who knows?
I feel like we've been getting ditched a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Not like ditched, but people would always there's always something coming up. One reasoning someone gave me or was like, I don't know if I can make it. The game's on tonight. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. We
can always put the game on here. Yeah. Remember last time when we had John? And he was getting pretty mad at us for watching the hockey game? Yeah, and since then, the Leafs been eliminated. Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Wow. Obvious.
You knew that was going to happen?
Come on.
That shit. I thought this was the year.
The year. Give me a break.
No, you didn't.
I was upset that the Oilers didn't go a little further. I would like to see them. Yeah. That was fun to watch. And, of course, the Habs should have still be in it, but, you can't do anything when the league's out to get you. I get it.
You know what? I've had this argument with a few of my Habs fans, friends, friends that are Habs fans. And the argument I've been making is that, time's running out. Like their window is closing to make some moves and win and do a proper cup run and actually, bring it home, because they've been a conference final team twice
in the last 6 years or something. Yeah,
exactly. And they've had the team to make the run for how many years now, and it doesn't seem they
Doesn't
can't
seem-
pull the trigger.
They got
can't do it.
You know what? They have no. This turning into a hockey talk. Zero
all right.
goal scorer. They do not have the goal scorer. Yes, Pacioretty did great. Radulov was
Radulov,
decent,
yeah.
but you know what? You need a pure goal scorer or you need a star. They never have purchased a superstar. They've never have since when?
Well,
What's
they
last
try.
guy?
I think the last guy they tried was Vanek. He was supposed to be the guy who was gonna.
That was a bust.
Yeah, that was a big bust.
That was a bust. But it's you need those guys on there, and you have some good role players, but you need those. You need a star.
That's a good point.
Guess what? You need a Malkin. You need a Crosby. You almost need that. Look,
You
at these
need
teams
somebody
now.
to score the big goal when it's time to. You know what's funny is we're talking about hockey right now. I probably haven't watched a fucking hockey game since the last time that we did a podcast that we had John here. I for some reason feel qualified enough to formulate an opinion on the 2017 NHL playoffs, but I've probably watched like half a hockey game this entire season. No, it's I mean, I guess you play the game for long enough, and then you just feel like you can fucking talk about it all the time. Oh yeah, I know what these guys should be doing. I'm probably the least qualified to talk about it. Probably don't even know the most recent rule changes.
I was about to watch the last Sens game, and I was walking down Denise Street, just walking the dog, off leash, no big deal. It was pretty late because I was going to catch the third period at my parents' place, right over here, and about to turn into Denise Park, just a couple steps away from walking into the entrance, and there's a car parked right in front of the entrance, honking and waving at me. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? What do these people want? And they're yelling out, and they're like, bah, bah, bah. And I was like, take off my headphones, like, what? There's a bear. I'm like, where?
Oh.
Where? Right there. And I just turned my head, and I'm like, oh, that's 20 feet away from me. All right, just hook the dog back up. I'm like, thanks. Turn around, walk away. And they were just like, they were still honking, trying to get the bear away. I'm like, whatever.
Didn't look aggressive or anything.
It was just kind of hanging out.
See, 'tis the season though.
Yeah.
It's springtime, and the bears are hungry. Oh man, you ever had a really bad encounter with a bear?
I guess it depends what type of bear you're talking about.
Oh, shit.
There's the days at the manhole.
That's code.
Some days in the manhole that there's been a couple bears. And
you had to beat them off with a stick, right? Again, terrible language.
No, I have not actually. It's I've been
all the years that you did firefighting.
When I fought fire, we got chased out by a bear one time in Quebec. It was one of the bigger black bears I've ever seen. He wouldn't leave. It was just it wouldn't leave. It kept kind of just prowling back and forth, coming closer to us. We had chainsaws running. We had fires burning to keep it away, and it was not too worried about that and kept coming at us. So we had about 5 minutes to load everything into the helicopter and get out of there.
Yeah, nature's a motherfucker, eh?
Oh yeah.
I feel like we kind of have this arrogance that all right, we live in cities, we can figure out how to deal with these bears, and what's always so telling is those relocation programs. How they just they trap the bear, they bring it out in the middle of fucking nowhere,
it comes back 2 days later.
Comes back to the exact same spot.
Oh, they say they can travel 50 clicks a day type thing, or they will travel 50 clicks a day.
Fucking crazy.
They literally and if you go further than 100 clicks, it's closer to another town now. Just go to there.
Go to the next one.
It's something ridiculous. But no, I guess there was that. There's been times where they've been on the fire line when I was there, but they're always pretty decent. I've never had a huge issue.
You've gotten along with the bears.
Yeah, we've gone along. Me and the bears.
It's a covenant.
But yeah, no, just say, look at this bullshit banner we're doing. Boy, we're not even talking about anything.
It's like we know what we're doing with this podcasting stuff, right? You'd think after 27, or sorry, today's 27, but 26 podcasts, we'd have this down pat.
No, we don't. Not at all.
I mean,
not at all.
I was listening to the Corolla podcast, and he was talking about how he had suggested to one of his co-hosts on one of his shows, because fucking Adam Carolla hosts how many fucking podcasts and TV shows, right? And he was talking about how he had suggested to one of his co-hosts to take an improv class. Did you hear that one?
Yeah.
And the guy just wouldn't do it. He's like, oh yeah, I got an improv coach, and it's like, okay, show starts next week. So how's it going with him? Oh, I think we're gonna be meeting tomorrow. Yeah, we met for 4 hours. Didn't work out.
No, actually pretty decent. I've heard that when I was listening out at the gym. So yeah, maybe
yeah.
No, but next to that, since we do have Steve come in, I think we should save some of the politics talk for him.
Well, I have been conveniently ignoring municipal politics recently. Yeah. I don't think I've watched a city council meeting in like 2 months.
You watch often. You're a diehard.
Fuck
watcher,
yeah,
right?
I love watching those city council meetings. I feel like part of me feels like I'm a bit of a superiority complex because I'm staying informed while the rest of the plebes aren't. But no, that's a joke, a bad joke. But
you don't have to explain it as a joke. You get it.
No, I mean, I liked watching it. I thought it goes through like spouts or spurts of being very entertaining, right? Like whenever there's arm flailing or whatever. But I think the process in which like I'm going to determine if I'm going to like watch it or not is if I see an article from Timmins Today from like Andy Audio covering it, yeah. And it's like a Tuesday after a city council meeting, and there's some fucking big headline about like so and so uses the S word, or what's the expression you use a lot, like tempers flare, or insults tossed around at city council meeting, and then I know to go back and watch and stream it, and that episode of council meeting.
As the world turns.
Oh fuck yeah! No, that's good. But I mean, I hope that we have a lot to like talk to the mayor about, because I feel like he's gonna want to talk about the festival that's coming up. Obviously, have you got your ticket?
Yeah.
I see your old man's playing now.
Yeah, he's in now.
Yeah, the Shaft
I think
Man.
opening for like April Wine or whatever.
Yeah, that seems very appropriate. No, that's cool, man.
Cool. I'll be there. I'll be watching.
Fuck yeah, why not?
I literally bought my tickets, I think opening day, days ticket sales were on. And now it's funny.
Doing your part to get us back in the black.
Hey, back in the black. I just thought of a bunch of jokes I should say, but I'm not going to. No. Things going through my head. No, but like I bought right away, and now I'm like, I should just go spring and buy the VIP stuff. It's like it's only a couple of extra, but I'm like, well, no, because then I'll be total $800 in. I'm not getting that far, and just
it's a lot of fucking money.
It is, but hey, whatever. You pay VIP at other places, it costs money. But like I thought about it, and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'll be good with the general pop, just
general pop. It's like you're in prison. Have you heard recently how we're doing financially on this front? What the most recent reports were?
No, have you?
No, I have not. Maybe we can get it right from the horse's mouth. I wonder what kind of spin he's gonna give us. God.
And I'm just looking forward to people commenting on this pod about us having the mayor on, being another and us being a propaganda arm of City Hall. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, I'll call him dear leader a few times. Just to prop him up a little bit.
Well, you do have to kiss his ring when he walks in.
Wow, yeah, but we're not going to air that.
No,
we're. That's just something private that individuals do amongst each other. So that said, we're pretty stoked to have the mayor on the podcast again. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff. Hopefully he's got a lot to talk about, because it doesn't sound like we have a whole lot to talk about today.
It's funny. And I guess it's just a fun part about doing podcasts. Whenever I'm driving or at home or doing whatever at work, and I'll think of something I want to rant about. I'm like, oh my God, perfect. I got something to go bitch about. I'm going to save it for a podcast. The problem is I don't write shit down, and I have the worst memory.
Okay, but you don't need to necessarily remember an entire rant. You just got to remember the subject. Yeah. Exactly. And you still can't remember the subject.
I remember like, I got two good ones. This will be good. I'm going through with this. Oh, it's going to be perfect.
I'm going through with this.
Completely. It's like, like I had, all stupid rant like, light bars. I just want to go on about it. But
stupid fucking light bars.
I'll just then like, I will have a perfect thing, and I'll even think, oh, there'd be a couple of funny things to say. Awesome, perfect, oh, perfect, right? And then just forget it. So, like, if you have a horrible memory like I do, write it down.
Write things down.
So brutal. Just a couple tips for.
You should definitely rant about people who don't write shit down.
Yeah,
it's kind of an important thing though, because like there's I never really understood this idea that people, like you go to restaurants sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And there's like I don't know if I've never worked in the restaurant industry, so I don't know if this is kind of like a badge of honor for a server
not having to write it down.
Doesn't have to write it down. They do one of these.
Oh, I got it.
Fucking eight people at the table, and you're like, you're not gonna write any of this down. I got it. It comes back. There's fucking nothing right. Wrong salad. There's fucking tomato on my burger. I never really understood how, because obviously if that happens, it's probably not the first time that's happened. Like you got the order wrong. Oh, and you're very apologetic afterwards, and and make the corrections. But like you should learn from that, right? You'd assume that every time that's ever happened in a restaurant that you've been at, that the next time that guy's writing the fucking order down. But somehow these people still kind of, it's just someone in the restaurant industry, Nick Shignac, of all people. You should tell us, is that like a badge of honor for?
If you don't have to write it down. The best is I remember being at a restaurant, and I'm there with a couple friends, and we're talking about what's the customary gratuity now? Do you tip 15%? Is that the going rate? Is it 10? Is it 20? And I'm like, wow, it's 15. It's 15%. That's I think the going rate. I think it's always been, and that's what it should be, 15%. I'm getting some feedback here, but do you hear anything?
Yeah,
no?
A little bit. Just some buzzing. I think it's the computer.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry about that, Jay.
So, yeah, I can still hear it. Anyways, might just be my cans. Yeah, there you go. No, I just can't hear myself, but no big deal. But we're talking about 50%, and the one girl's like, no, well, I worked in the industry before. It's 20 now. I was like, no, I've never heard it being 20 or 25% now, or whatever it was. I'm like, no, it's 15. That's the rate. I'm telling you, it's 20. I'm like, no, it's 15. That is right. That's all I know. And I asked everyone else, and most people were about 15 range. And she's like, let me ask the waitress here. Turned around. What is it now? Is it 15 or 20%? The waitress was like, 20%. I was like,
of course you gotta fucking say 20%.
Of course she has a horse in this race. She's not going to say 15. Go be nuts.
See, I don't, and this is why, like, I don't understand. Well, I mean, I understand the concept of tipping, like this idea that you're going to give a gratuity to, I guess, reward good service or whatever. But it's kind of become part of people's compensation now, right?
Do you ever not tip even when you have kind of shitty service? I still tip something. I've never walked.
Do you know the ones that drive me nuts is the places that have not provided you any service and they still prompt you for a tip on the fucking on the machine.
Right.
Like how much do you want? Do you want to give a flat amount? Do you want to give a percentage? I don't want to give anything. Like you just, I grabbed my food at the sushi shop in the fucking cooler and I brought it here and you rang it in and now you're asking me for a fucking tip? Like where am I living? I just came back from the Dominican and they fucking wait there and they'll look at you and at least the person asks you and it's not a machine. The guy sits there and he goes like, hey, you got a tip for me? Sure. That was a terrible accent, by the way. But
what is that?
I don't know.
He's from Cap. Okay.
Hey, man. You got a tip for me? He's from Cap. Oh, no. So, yeah, that I mean, the whole practice of tipping, like this idea that, businesses are able to pay servers less money than the minimum wage because they get gratuities. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture because I've never worked in it. But I would love to be enlightened by some YouTube or Facebook commenters. I'm sure they could give us an earful on that. So that said, Jason, what else has been going on with us these days? I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time. Also, we haven't been in the same room talking about bullshit. Maybe at the gym.
Yeah, at the gym. Well,
can you tell?
In the showers. We frequent the steam room very often. It's that's where the real workout starts, and technically ends as well. Finishes and stops. No, next really not much going on. I don't know what's new. I'm the boring one. I don't have the kids and I don't have the band, so I got nothing.
I played a
going on.
show at the working class this past weekend, and it was lots of fun. I was a little bit worried initially at the starting of the night when there was I'm going to say 0 people in the bar. I was like, oh, fuck. And there was these bands that came from Montreal. One band came from France, they were absolutely amazing. I'm hoping to get some video online.
Just to clarify, every goddamn band who's played at the working class, if you've seen, has been absolutely amazing. And been stellar, awesome, great, blah, blah, blah. You've never given a bad review of a band that's played at the working class. Or that you've played the same night or have gone to a watch, you always have given absolutely amazing. Oh, they're insane. It was nuts. It was nuts. I bought a T-shirt. First thing I bought a T-shirt right away and the album. Oh, they're awesome.
Do you know how I pick my critiques of bands? I grab a dart and I throw it at a dartboard that's full of just positive adjectives. It's just like awesome. Got me so stoked. No, okay, but this band was really, really good. Sometimes I feel like. It's almost maybe you just buy into the whole atmosphere of being in that place, like I do, anyways. And I feel like it almost feels impossible to say, yeah, you know what, I had a really great night, but that band fucking sucked.
I'll be honest. There's been many times not many times. There's been a few times where I've gone like, that was shit.
It's because you get too drunk. Yeah, but you're not a hardcore fan or anything like that. So if I drag you out to a hardcore show, you're.
Sitting there with my arms crossed in the corner.
like an old man.
I've been told, I don't know how many times, Jay.
You're like a Walking Hard Times article.
Yeah.
Like
they're like, Jay, fucking look like you're having a good time. Oh, sorry. And I'll start drinking.
So this band fucking sucks.
McCaver told me the same thing at the open mic night that he did his first gig at, where I was just sitting in the back at one point, just kind of my arms crossed. Just
Is this the one we went to?
Yeah, just sitting with my arms crossed, and McCaver came up to me like, "Fuck, Jay, look like you're having a good time and laugh."
We had a fucking great time that night.
I guess it was just the one that I wasn't paying attention anymore and just kind of just drinking.
Hey, speaking of that, that's something to talk about. We had Rick Lemieux on the podcast. Well, you did the podcast with him, and he's taping a TV special, right?
Yeah,
that's fucking awesome.
I'm gonna make jokes about him now since he can take it.
He's a real.
Is it a TV special on local Timmins television?
No, I think.
Or is it like a comedy type of thing? Like,
I heard he struck a deal with Netflix, and he's got 2-hour-long specials that are going to be airing separately. So
almost. Chappelle-esque a conversation.
I'm looking forward to the opening sequence where he's just walking the mean streets of Timmins and is
Batman.
As Batman, yes.
I dig his Batman suit because I'm not sure if it's a Batman Forever Batman. No, it's I think it's like Batman Returns Batman suit. Like it's an older Batman suit. It's not the current Batman's. I dig the suit. I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like that one.
I can't recall it right now, but it's not the Batman and Robin Batman suit with the nipples.
No
the
nipples.
George Clooney one?
I don't think there's nipples in it. No, it looks more like it looks like Batman Returns. Yeah,
Batman
with the penguin and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, yes. Batman movie, that Batman Returns movie. I think I've got to say that's the best one.
Batman Returns. Yeah.
Well, I mean, excluding the newest.
No,
the newest
Batman
trilogy.
Returns, man.
No, you still think?
Yeah, it's the best.
You're not a fan of Christian Bale?
It's dark. I didn't mind Christian Bale. It's very good. Awesome. Yeah, great. I still think Batman Returns is the best. And the best Joker, I'm sorry, was the original. It was I guess...
Jack Nicholson?
Yeah. Jack Nicholson.
Really?
Yeah. Something about him, his smile is more cerebral. There's something about it.
Cerebral.
It was something about it, man. It was
Did you look
scarier.
that word up?
Yes, I did.
It was scary. Jack Nicholson's a crazy motherfucker.
I thought I was awesome. Yeah, the Heath Ledger one was like, oh, look how crazy he was. Yeah, I get it, and I think there's a bit of and I sound like a huge ass, but yeah, he passed. I think that kind of pushed how good of a Joker this role was. I think there was some sympathy type of praise.
Yeah, but people loved his loved that role way before, and loved that movie way before not way before, but before
he died before it got released.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Pretty sure.
No fucking way. I'm looking this shit up.
Look release date. All right.
You talk to the folks while I look this up.
Yeah, awesome pod.
Yeah.
Great pod.
Yeah, you tell the people what they can expect.
I'm telling you. But first of all, anyways, not as good as Jack. Jack was way better. Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, Jack Nicholson's a good actor. So he died January 22nd, 2008, and The Dark Knight came out, released. What did I say?
January 22nd.
January 22nd, 2008. You are right. July 18th, 2008.
Fucking always.
Wow. That's fucked.
What you say, July?
Why did I not?
Did you say July 2008?
Yeah, it came out July 18th, 2008. So, like, pretty much seven
Weird.
months after.
Weird. Jason's correct again. It's
okay, all right.
It's tough.
I don't have time to pay attention to this shit, like when celebrities die and when movies come out. Speaking of movies, I feel like we're jumping from topic to topic here, but that's fine.
Whatever.
This is like rapid fire podcasting.
Don't worry, guys. I know you're not interested, but stick with us, or just skip forward to like minute 40.
Minute 40 with the mayor, unless we get ditched, and then we're gonna be sitting here. You're gonna skip to minute 40. We're just gonna, oh fuck, juice, goddamn mayor. Anyways, speaking of movies, went to the Timmins Film Society.
There you go. Yeah.
Not last night.
Last
Monday.
of the year. Last of the season.
Yeah, and it was Hello Destroyer. A silent film, apparently.
Just about. Jesus Christ. Did you like it? Tell me. Like, and be honest. Well, no one's gonna listen. Like, don't listen to shit.
Did I like the movie? No, I didn't.
I
thought I was gonna love it.
I
really thought I was gonna love it. Maybe it's just because of the whole like hockey aspect of it. But there was little to no dialogue in the movie, which I mean.
To be fair, a lot of the hockey guys I know don't really say much either, or have nothing much to add. So.
Are you sure about that? Have you seen Letterkenny? They should have got those guys to play the hockey players in that movie. But I wasn't too crazy about it. I found the most entertaining part of the night, the color commentary that was going on in the crowd.
Behind you, I didn't hear that. Someone else told me that.
Yeah, one fat dude, he's just like sitting across the aisle and like 2 rows behind me, and obviously there were many silent parts in this movie. There was no score at all.
None.
There was one song that played during the closing credits, but there was no score. And during one of the many silent parts, he would blurt out things like, "Unbelievable." Well, like this was a documentary that was just blowing his mind, about like the way hockey players are treated, and spoiler alert, don't want to kind of make this, don't want to ruin it for anybody, but the whole thing about the film is that he ends up, hurting another player, and then his team deserts him. He gets kicked out of his, and his life spirals out of control.
The only thing I was upset about, or I was upset at a few things, but one big thing, sorry for cutting you off, but I will, was there was these weird glances with the billet mom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, something's going to happen. I'm going to be able to jack to something later. Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
I thought the exact same thing.
It didn't work.
Because right at the starting there, she just looks at him. So I have you all to myself. I'm like, okay, this is fucking Youngblood all over again.
Awesome.
Like the billet mom that just sleeps with all the players.
And then she does this tie, and they kind of like this weirdly look at each other.
Do you want it a little longer?
A little longer, tighter, and it's just like,
no, I'm okay. And he had to like the voice, no voice.
Yeah. Oh God.
But that fell apart pretty quick.
That fell apart, and then I'll give it one thing. I'll give it props to is that it does kind of depict one thing, right? It's like one thing about like junior hockey and stuff like that. You get hurt, or it's easy if you get hurt. The team doesn't really fucking got your back. They don't got money to be supporting you. They don't got your back. You get hurt, or you get in trouble. Not get hurt, get in trouble. Like there's only so much they can do, and the thing that sucks is you fuck up once, you're done. You're gone. Like he really, and like, yeah, it's a movie, and they don't really show, or you see the hit, but it's not really, doesn't look like anything. You just find out that something bad happened.
Something bad happened.
But it's like, one hit from behind or whatever. And it's like, yeah, okay, that happens. First, like, I guess it depends how egregious it would be. But like, you screw up like that in junior, even if you had perhaps a promising career, you can be screwed pretty quick with one mistake. And really, you're just a kid. You're like a 17, 18-year-old kid screwing up, and you're out. You're done.
I think the whole point of the movie was to kind of highlight the violence in hockey and how like you are at every turn kind of encouraged to be more aggressive and encouraged to kind of act out that aggression on the ice, and like, but there's not a lot of talk about straddling that line. The only talk that's where it comes down, well, in my experience anyways, in straddling the line was you don't want to take stupid penalties, right? So it never comes down to like the possibility, and it's a real possibility. Like, it's a fast game with like guys wearing fucking suits of armor that are going out there trying to fucking hurt each other. It's reasonable to expect that some people are going to get seriously hurt throughout the time span of like. And
when you play hockey, you're taking what's that called? We need some of our lawyer friends like the Will Wesses to tell us what the term is. But it's when you take hockey, you're taking you understand, and you're taking an onus that you might get hurt. It's things happen in this game that would not happen in ordinary life, that you're taking that responsibility and that danger in your own hands and allowing yourself to be on the ice, because shit will happen, which is always kind of confusing when like there's a borderline hockey play and someone wants to sue because of it.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I don't understand how things get escalated to the courtroom. Yeah. Then, if that's the case, right? That everybody's kind of play at your own risk kind of thing. But I guess we don't really live in that kind of world anymore. Anyways.
Yeah. Not in the world where Corey McGee would get kicked out night after night for hitting from behind. How many hitting from behind?
I thought this was the story of Corey McGee.
How many hitting from behind?
None.
5?
None.
6?
No real ones.
They always had their chest to you.
Everyone turned.
Oh, they all turned.
Anyways, just keep in mind, our listeners here, that all of this hockey talk is coming from guys who've never played more than AA midget hockey.
Yep. Yeah.
I've played my entire life, but most of that life has been men's league,
beer league.
Well, you know what? It's coming on that. Like, what are we, 31 now? 30, 31?
Oh, yeah. And you played just as much as beer league than you have of minor
beer
hockey.
League and pickup hockey, as I've played pickup minor hockey. Well, we played minor hockey until we were like 17, 18, right? Well, so we're getting
since the age of
there.
like 3 or 4.
Yeah. Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, that's true.
Pretty well.
That. We're at that. It's a 50-50 split now.
Sad.
Man, that is sad.
It's funny because I'll still think about playing minor hockey, and it's like, oh man, I wish I could play again. Like, you think about that shit, like that was your life. That was my life, or the only thing I really cared about growing up when I was
played 7 days a week.
13, 14, that's all you want to do. It was crazy. And our fathers would just abuse us, and nonstop.
Verbal abuse.
Oh yeah, when they showed in this movie, you'll see a coach flip out and break his stick on a wall. I know a certain Mr. Dean McGee who would show this guy what's up. First of all,
fuck yeah,
better swearing. McGee had much better vocabulary when it came to swearing, and also did not take 5 whacks of a stick against the wall to break it. Just one, clean through, done.
Yeah. Oh, Jimmy Beardsley, $75 after that.
That was still one of the best things ever. And like,
I'll buy you a new stick.
Dean comes in. Don't fucking let him do that ever again. Next time, or if I would have been your age or been playing, I would have broke his fucking arm. Grabs the stick, breaks over a rafter, clean through, and like, whose stick was this? Jimmy? All right, Jimmy, sorry. I'll buy you a new one. And walks out. We all just start laughing. So this super intense yelling and like literally verbal abuse just turned into us laughing hysterically.
I feel horrible that this stuff is coming back to haunt my dad now. Years later, in the form of a podcast, he's gonna. What's this shit? People keep stopping me in line at the grocery store, telling me I used to abuse their kids. Fuck is this?
Were you Black Pearl? Can't remember.
Yeah, I was.
I remember we had
Oh, I think we may have a guest that we need to bring in here.
All right.
So we're going to take a short little break, little one, and we'll be back with our mayor, Steve Black. All right. And we are back with our returning guest, our mayor, Steve Black. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. Pleasure to be back.
You happy to be back?
Always.
Yeah? You're bailing us out tonight. This was a little bit of a
closer
last
to
minute.
mic.
Yeah, you might have to pull the mic up there. Come on, you're a politician. You know how to speak to the mic.
Sometimes
every
I
Monday.
get in trouble for speaking too close to the mic.
Serious?
Other times I leave it on and I breathe, and people make comments about that.
Will you please stop breathing in the mic, Mr. Mayor? So how have things been?
Busy. Things have been good but busy.
Good but busy. Gearing up for the big festival.
As I was told today, there's 38 days. So
38 days. That's it.
There you go.
Jesus. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming quick. I got the week off. What about you, Jay?
I have the week off. I got tickets.
Yeah, you got tickets. You're gonna be checking out shows every.
I'm only a block away. I'll be able to walk over.
Well, it's going to be pretty huge. Like, we're, I don't know. I don't think people have quite wrapped their minds around 8 days of a pretty kick-ass party.
yeah, it's going to be good. I mean, obviously it's been a long time in the making, so I think staff who's been doing most of the legwork and those of us on the committee are eager to see it come and actually see the benefits of the last few months of work. But a lot of people around the community are pretty excited. And when you look at the number of people coming into the community from outside, I don't know that you can name too many events that have drawn that many people into the community. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, we're pretty stoked, and I think the majority of people have kind of come around to it as well. Even the naysayers have come around.
The majority is a good word.
Yes. Do we want to say the vast majority of Timmins? That
you know what? As I said last time on the show, anything you do, you're going to have some who don't support it, and I got a small following that doesn't support anything I do.
But are those people still not supporting it? Even after seeing it come together.
Oh, they're not diehards, not supporters. It's awesome.
So
I love watching them.
I still don't understand what the point of that would be.
Well, when you look at it, I mean, last time we did the number crunching, there was over 10,800 tickets sold in Timmins. So when you think a quarter of our population is going to be at this event, there hasn't been too many events where even a quarter of our own population has come out and attended, let alone paid to come and attend. So
yeah, no kidding.
It's definitely, I think the overwhelming sentiment in the community is very positive, very excited about it, looking forward to it. I've talked to a number of families who have people coming back from all over the world that haven't come back home to Timmins or haven't visited their family in Timmins since they've relocated here. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to show the community and have a little fun. Yeah,
an event to bring people kind of back home, right?
This will outdo an event in Timmins that had a 10% population to show up to the event. It was in 1941. It was the Kinsman Club of Timmins hosted an event of a mock hanging of Adolf Hitler, and 2,500 people showed up on 3rd Avenue to watch it.
Is this the second best attended?
This is the first. Let's just beat it out. Just beat it out. That's actually in the Timmins, Ontario, a guide 100-year anniversary thing. I don't know if you read that.
He's always well researched.
It's a great fact. Great fact.
Mock hanging of Hitler.
Well, I'm glad we have probably a more positive event.
You mean there won't be any effigies hanging at this event?
Not inside the event, no, that's for sure.
The naysayers on the other side of the event.
Yeah, they're right to protest, right? Peacefully protest. No,
so I just totally just shit on Steve.
So you're. It's an interesting fun fact. You always get fun facts when you do this show with you guys.
I did not know that one was coming out. That's good. You mentioned that there were people that have been mentioning to you that there's family coming from all over the world. What are some of the places that the ticket sales have?
Well, I actually had one couple up, and they came and apologized because they watched the council meetings and they watch how we rhyme off the different countries that people are coming from, and they said, Steve, we're sorry we cost you a country because we bought tickets for our family that's coming from Thailand, but we bought the tickets here locally. So you actually have people coming from Thailand as well that aren't counted in your numbers. So it's neat to hear. We've sold a few in the States and across the States, a couple overseas. So it's really interesting just to see the people, and really hear the families that are excited that their family is going to come visit them in Timmins, and usually they're the ones making the trips down south to attend these type of events or get-togethers with their family, and now to have the opportunity to have their family come up to Timmins, it's good. I see people starting to post, does anyone have a room for rent, because most of the hotels are pretty booked out for the week, and people are looking at finding bed and breakfast styles or Airbnb type of rentals. So it's going to be great for the community, great for the businesses in the community to have that many people out and enjoying themselves for a week.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that like this is one thing I've been telling a lot of people that I was talking to that would have, you know, their doubts about this idea. Are so many of these people going to be coming to Timmins, like of all places, Timmins, right, to come see an event like that? Well, the event is large enough in scale. It's something that's of high enough caliber that it's tapping into that underground culture of people who just follow these festivals around throughout the summer, right? And to come for 8 days in Timmins, I could only imagine. I mean, I'm no economist, evidently, but I could only imagine the economic effect. Or wordsmith, yes. No, it's going to be, it's pretty exciting times in Timmins. So
I always think it's interesting. People say, like, why would people come to Timmins for this? Blah blah blah. Like Rockfest, you have this small little town in Quebec. It gets packed for just a punk rock concert. Not just a punk rock, but just a huge punk rock concert. There's a huge, and like, you know, for guys who enjoyed punk rock in high school, I love it because, like, oh, it's all the bands I used to listen to growing up. But like, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's a small town. Flocks of people go to it. Like, I don't know how many, like, you've been there. How many people show up to that thing?
There are 50,000 people at, the one I went to was 50,000 people.
It's nuts.
Well, and that's the thing, right? When you look at these festivals and the ones that have been around for a while, a lot of them are in the smaller communities. I mean, we got Keith Urban flying in, and he's flying in from Dauphin, Manitoba, which is a city which is probably about a quarter or a fifth the size of Timmins and has a huge country music festival every year and sees tens of thousands of people come to their community for that. So they definitely have the ability to attract people and set up something. And the unique thing about ours is you get obviously the concert goers, but having that 8 days of international fireworks competition is going to be something really special. And when you see the different people saying what they're looking forward to, and of course you get the Keith Urban comments and the Headley comments, but the number of people saying the fireworks is encouraging too. So I think it's going to be something unique when you can book a week's vacation and see a full international fireworks competition, plus the great music lineup we have. It's definitely it's been a long process, a tiring process to do the work to get us to that point, but it's going to be a pretty exciting week for the city of Timmins. Yeah, and are you guys still getting a lot of flack for the fiscally responsible side of things? People feeling as though I think this may be a financial bust. Yeah, I think there's always going to be those comments, and I mean, if the festival loses a few dollars at the end of the day, there's going to be those people that say we shouldn't have done that. When you look at the city of Timmins, everything we do is revenue negative. We don't make money on anything but the airport. That's our profitable side of the organization, and the rest of it is not. So our arenas don't make money, or anything we're involved in, our transit system doesn't make money. We subsidize it. So there's been so much focus on the fiscal bottom line and when we were going to go, whether or not it was going to break even, which is actually unfortunate that that's been the approach and the discussion constantly around the event, because most communities would be celebrating the fact that they're going to have 3,000-4,000 visitors coming to their community, and what it's going to mean to the community and the positive spin-offs for the hotel industries, the restaurants, the businesses, which all pay taxes and need this. Yeah. And even just the morale, right? Yeah. This idea of community pride and people kind of being happy that something this big and something this cool is going on in their community. Well, surprisingly, a number of the positive feedback has come from seniors within the community who maybe wouldn't travel outside the community to see a show like this. That's a good point. Yeah. Now can come see it in their own community and get to see someone like Keith Urban, where normally they'd have to fly down south or to another country to go watch him play. So it's definitely has its excitement from all different groups, and of course there's always those that aren't as excited about the event. I'm just gonna ask real quick. We're not one of them. I'm just watching a board. Is this stuff queued up properly? Yeah, everything is all right. Just make sure up there. So or just point it towards you a bit better. I will take a beer. Though. You will take another beer? Corey's does not only host, he also runs the board and serves the beer. So
Chop, chop.
So Jason's the fun fat guy, and Corey's everything else.
I'm fun fact and saying super inappropriate jokes half the time. This will kill any political career I might ever want, but whatever.
No, I think it's going to bolster your
You know, hey,
these are interesting times we're living in, Jay.
If Trump could be leader of the not free world,
free world,
anyone could do anything, really.
You know what? I think that last time we got into municipal politics pretty deeply with you, and all the tumultuous stuff that's been going on with city council. I feel like we didn't get much time to talk about like just politics in general and your politics, because I mean you've been a politician involved at the provincial level as well, and it's I feel like, you know, you had mentioned that, Jay, that we didn't get much of a chance, and we did a 2-hour podcast with you last time. And then we stayed around here
and chatted
chit-chatting for another hour and a half afterwards. Man, yeah, Mayor's got a lot to say. So I figured that tonight might be a bit of a better opportunity to talk a little bit about what the going-ons are in the world, and what your views are on a lot of things. Like, obviously, first and foremost, there's Trump, right? He seems to be dominating everything, and no one can even put their finger on why.
What's happening?
What happened today? You want me to just randomly fucking
Google
dartboard
Trump
Google
headline
like,
and see what
happened?
The new statement of the day was.
Yeah. Are you? I guess it's too general of a question to ask you. Are you a fan?
Am I a fan of Donald Trump?
Be careful now.
There's obviously a lot of concerns with what's going on, and some of the approaches. I'll be honest, during the election, when he first entered the race, I was rooting for him, and it was not
your fault.
Not to win, but to see that
shake things up.
Reality TV persona enter the world of politics, just for the entertainment value of it throughout the campaign. And
that was just too real.
And then it became real as the campaign went on, and he became the presidential candidate. But to be honest with you, I would have had a tough time either way in the election in the States. I wasn't a big Hillary Clinton fan. She doesn't come across, I mean, there's the whole side of she could have been the first woman president, which would have been inspirational in that sense. But as a persona and during the campaign, she didn't inspire. She kind of stayed hands off and said, look at what he's doing. He's going to put himself under. And she didn't really campaign, in my opinion. She expected it to be served up to her. And although I differ with a lot of his policy beliefs, I like Bernie Sanders. He was a good guy. He's a nice guy. And I think he might have come out with a different result if he was the Democratic nominee versus Hillary, because some of the anti-trade positions that Trump garnered support from, Bernie was also anti-trade, but he didn't have all the other factors that might have hindered Trump in a race where there was some policy overlap. But it's definitely been an interesting couple years in terms of American politics, and every morning is a different concern issue. And you know, it's actually, I went into one of the schools and I went to an SK class this week, and the amount of the students that asked, do you know Trump? And we don't like Trump. And
do you know him?
So when you have 6 and 7 year olds asking you and telling you that they don't like an American president, I don't think that's something that any previous American president would have ever been exposed to in Northern Ontario, Canada, in terms of feedback. So I think that shows what it's done to the world and shaking things up. We watched a couple other overseas elections, and France had a very similar style election, but came out on the other side of the results in terms of candidates which they'd support. And I think I like Barack Obama. I policies aside, he was a good guy and inspirational and really fun to listen to him when he gave his speeches about his views of the world and his vision for the States. And I think after this 4 years is over, people are going to be wondering why they had term limits in the United States.
Well, I feel like people are going to realize what real radical crazy change feels like, right? Because I think what led to a guy like Trump getting elected is this idea that people were just fed up with politicians who had the rehearsed lines and the same old process and everything, and we just want somebody to go in there and burn it all down and build it back up, And that's not always that great. You know, revolutions are usually bathed in blood, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, to be honest, throughout the campaign, I thought he was playing a political game and
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
what he had to say to win, and
Yeah.
maybe he'd refine himself very quickly after taking office, and that it was, this is winning me votes, and I'm going to continue doing
Yeah.
this because it's going to get me into the.
I thought the same thing.
But
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not.
he's
Not-
just an idiot. He's just a crazy person. Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Okay, he's clearly not an idiot. Like, you don't get to this level of wealth by being stupid.
But
Like,
there's a
But at the
certain
same
IQ does
time-
not have. There's a certain. I
Well,
don't
but
know
yeah,
what
there's
type-
I mean-
something missing. Some,
But to be fair,
act-
that was no one going in. You knew you weren't getting someone with the political background, the polished speaking. His biggest
part of his appeal.
problem possibly is that he hasn't surrounded himself with people that can coach him within the system of how things actually should function and what should be said and what not. Or he just doesn't listen at all to those people, and it says whatever he feels like saying at any moment, and then his people have to try and explain what he just said. So when you take someone who's not been exposed to political life and throw him into the highest office in the country, that's a tall order for anyone to adjust to it and know the rights and wrongs, especially if you have someone of his demeanor who is used to being able to say and do what he pleases and not worry about the ramifications.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
you say that, but like we could put a very unpolished person into the mix, and they would know like maybe I shouldn't be saying this. Like,
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
he there is a certain I don't know detachment that he has from reality, which you just, like.
Well, what I find the most telling is this idea that the rest of the White House staff and him can't seem to get on the same page. Like, they're always putting out different messages. It's like he'll get up in front of a crowd of people and, you know, start to feel the heat, and next thing you know, it's just something comes out that is not at all accurate. And
for me, it comes down, I mean, it's what the people wanted, right? You have an election, people vote, and he won the election. And I talked to not a large number of people from the States, but in our workings and dealings, we talked to a few, and it's always interesting hearing, and some still really like what Trump is about and the policies. They might not like the refinement that some of it comes across, but they still like the concept and the beliefs that he supports, and his approach to trade and foreign affairs that differs. And others are concerned and pulling their savings out of savings accounts and considering moving. And so it's definitely been the most polarizing election in my lifetime. Obviously, in years past, and some of the issues that have taken place in history of our population, there's been some very controversial elections and platforms, but this is in modern day. This was a rebellion against politics, and let's put the outsider in and watch what happens, and watch them bring down the political world. And the political world's definitely changing.
so you're saying this is just like Nazi Germany?
I did not say that
Just
either.
like Nazi Germany.
I gotta be careful to clarify what I didn't say and what I did say when I'm on here with you guys.
The beer makes us say funny things sometimes. But you mentioned something like that you would have thought it would have been an interesting race to have Bernie Sanders running against Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, it was still an interesting race. The vast majority of people didn't go into that night thinking Trump was going to win that election. So
Oh, most of the voters did not think that
We
either.
did 4 hours here, and you could tell the whole mood of the podcast went from like here to. Ooh,
It also got real boozy too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
so from election interesting standpoints, it was an interesting election.
Sure.
It would have been a different, more refined. It would have been a different election with Bernie. See, the thing is, I mean, Bernie Sanders, I mean, I don't know what his age is, but he's pushing 70 if I had to guess.
He's definitely.
He's actually up there with Trump.
You think so? Yeah.
And he inspired the youth. He had the youth movement behind him, and that's where I think things would have got different, because he would have held on to some of the support that was anti-trade and anti-foreign policies, but he would have also mobilized the youth, who I think after he fell out of the race stayed home for a good portion.
But
Yeah.
what about like
75, by the way.
75? And Trump's 73, I think. So yeah, pretty close. The one thing I thought though about Sanders, I liked him a lot more. Saunders. Jesus.
Freudian slip there.
Anyways,
Old hockey
Bernie,
coach.
Go, yeah. Bernie showed the socialist side, whatever. And I, for some reason, and I've said this before on this podcast, is that in America, socialism is a bad word. Like, you do not say that. And I always thought that if he would have got in, there actually might be a big swing to a Trump or someone who's more right, because of he's so like, people just start talking socialism and completely scare away from it. Yes, but it's an interesting point. There is the anti-trade thing that Trump pushed, with NAFTA and everything else, that won him a lot of votes, in Ohio and all this stuff. So would he have been able to swing that vote towards him or not? I don't know. And I just find that the socialist aspect would have been a hard hill for him to climb.
You know who looks like the biggest political genius in the entire American election is Mike Pence. Because he was the only one that was willing to sign up and rally on that vice president card, and he may end up becoming the president of the United States as a result.
You give another year and a half.
You listen to a lot of people on the far left who
they don't like Mike Pence any more
than
their
biggest fear is that Mike Pence is even more dangerous than a Donald Trump, right? I think the coming years are going to be even more interesting. I guess we just keep throwing around that word interesting.
When you look back, like when you have a Marco Rubio or a John Kasich and all these people who, whether they're going to admit it or not, were probably approached to see if they'd consider a vice president run. If they're kind of sitting back and saying, I really don't like this guy and I didn't want to be his vice president, but man, there's a good chance I might have become president if I would have said yes. So it's interesting is the only word I can put without getting in any hot trouble.
Straight out of House of Cards. That's what it is, basically.
It is. Well, that's what someone
Spoiler
said to me
alert.
the other couple of weeks. We were talking House of Cards and said, you know what it's like? It's like House of Cards, but nothing's behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's just, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm being investigated. I'm going to fire the guy.
That's so fucking crazy, eh? Like, just right in the middle of the investigation. Yeah, you know what? He's not doing a good job. You're gone.
Obstruction of justice, whatever. Let's go for it.
No, that's crazy. But the reason why I was bringing up the Bernie Sanders thing is maybe to shift gears and go into our own federal politics. Who's been called the Bernie Sanders of Canada. Friend of the show, if I may. if I may indulge. Charlie Angus, he's a leadership candidate for the federal NDP. And we were talking a little bit about that leadership race prior to, and I think that's getting a little interesting now. You're starting to see some people differentiate in opinions, right? And they're going to be having a leadership debate in Sudbury. When is
on
it?
The 26th.
26th? Is that what it is? Okay.
I was going to be there.
You were going to be there, and you're not going to be there?
I have a doctor's appointment in Toronto I got to go to, so had to skip.
Well, that sucks. All right. Well, anyways.
And not a bad doctor. Don't worry. It's all good.
That's okay. Good doctor. All right. So if you, if you thought that Bernie Sanders might have presented a good alternative politic to a Donald Trump in a U.S. federal election, what do you think of our man Charlie?
I just think he would have presented a good election to watch. Politics is like, you know what, Charlie, I'm happy for him. I wish him the best in the leadership race. Anytime you could have a potential leader of a party in your riding is a benefit to the riding. You would hope that he would have a little more sway and a little more pull when it comes to northern issues, northern policy issues, finances, projects in the community. If you're a leader, they usually see some perks to being that leader. Mm-hmm. Charlie's a nice guy. He works hard. I mean, I never deny that. We don't line up necessarily policy-wise on that front, but I've told him throughout since he announced his campaign, and I had a reporter call me from Maclean's magazine, and they had known that I was a previous conservative candidate provincially and that I had endorsed a conservative candidate federally, and they were grilling me on Charlie's leadership race just before he was even formally announced as the in the leadership race. And I told him, I said, listen, he works hard, and he went through, well, lots of people say he focuses too much on First Nations, and I said he's the critic for First Nations. That's
portfolio.
That's what his job is.
Yeah.
And I said if he's doing too good of a job at his job, that's hardly a criticism. I know other people feel differently on that issue, but the thing I've learned since I took my run is you have your role when you're in an upper level government. When you're in the municipal level, you get to say more what your personal belief is. You don't have to follow a party line. You don't have to follow a role within that party. When you get to the provincial or federal level, you have roles and responsibilities, and you toe the line within the party on those roles and responsibilities. And I mean, we get it all the time on the long gone registry vote where he didn't vote as he had previously stated, and that's whether anyone likes it or not. Unfortunately, that's how the upper level of government works. The party tells you what the party's position is, and you go vote as the party says. And that's one of the things I struggled with most when I was a provincial candidate was, if something is being discussed or not, and you don't necessarily agree with it, that's the party line, and you can't.
You got to fall in line.
You can't go out and say, yeah, I don't agree with this one during the middle of a campaign, because then the entire campaign focus shifts to the candidate in XY riding who says, he doesn't really agree with the party policy anymore.
Get you the news, though.
No, but are there certain things that would, I guess there's not really any kind of set up policy that would prevent you from speaking out on certain things. It's just, I'm sure for everybody, there are issues that if the party fell out of line with their personal beliefs.
Often there's a certain number of members missing when votes transpire.
That's
especially from the majority government. If it's something that maybe certain members don't necessarily agree with, and they know they have enough votes to win the vote without those members voting, perhaps they're given permission to miss the day. To be honest with you, that's my biggest thing with the upper levels of government. I think there needs to be a fundamental change where people are allowed to go and represent the ridings they represent and vote and speak accordingly as their people elected them to go vote and what's important to their region, and not necessarily have to vote just because your party tables a policy. If it's not good for your area or there's concerns with your area, you should be able to vote against it. And
see, and it's funny that we're mentioning that in the context of Charlie's run for the leadership, because that was one of the things that when we talked to Charlie and when I saw him do his when he had not the leadership debate, but the debate at the last federal election, the one we went to watch at TH, and he basically, that was a rebut to the Liberal candidate's idea that he would, there would be, Timmins would be better placed to have somebody from the party in power representing them. And his rebut to that was that, that's not how government's supposed to work. You're supposed to represent your riding and your constituents of your riding. So basically, are you, from your understanding, what you're saying is that that's not really how things work? It's kind of...
I think any community who has a cabinet minister is in a good position compared to any community who doesn't have a cabinet minister, and that's not a secret in the world of politics. I think any community who has a leader of a party is in a good position compared to communities who have members of the opposition who aren't in such a profile role. It's politics, and that's how the system goes, and anyone can tell you that, we treat everyone the same and all issues get addressed with the same priority no matter where they come from.
It's not the case.
If you go and look and watch the next year and a half of funding and where the funding is handed out, I guarantee you there's a lot of provincial funding handed out in red target ridings in the next year and a half.
Steve Black speaking the truth,
but
dropping truth bombs.
What about
on
the
beer
idea
bullshit?
that if I was I was Liberal cabinet minister, and we were identifying where to send money, and I see riding X or Y. Next election, I have a good chance for Liberal win, or possibly if we send money there, can we swing a Liberal vote that way? Like I always think that, if I was in power, I would be identifying positions where I think I can go get them. Sure, the candidate there would take credit for it, but it'd be like, hey, I'm going to try to get. I'm going to try to win a vote here.
I think you're right. I think that's part of the game no one will admit is you identify your target ridings that you think you can win, and there's things that go on and visits to that community that take place to try and swing that riding. Obviously, you think you can win any riding where you already have a seat or a cabinet minister, so there's things that go in to ensure that you keep those seats and positions as well, especially when you're in a majority government position now. If you are in a majority government position, all you need to do is maintain the status quo and possibly even give up a few, and you still maintain a majority government. So, I mean, they've been good. We've had some good partnerships with both levels of government. We've done some good projects over the years. But so when you look at something like our Connecting Link has a $120 million project, and we get $3 million in year one, and they talk about how they understand that it's a major project and a major highway and it needs to be done. And you look at things like Malley Drive and Sudbury that get the one-third funding. There's situations there where you shouldn't have a highway that's critical to the community, that critical to the region, that they up and pull away with. And I understand there's limited funding in the portfolio, and we got more funding than anyone else the year before and all that good jazz. But at the end of the day, every year we don't do that project, or every year they don't commit, the price of that project goes up with the cost of escalation and inflation, and it becomes more expensive than it was the year before. So we talk about 3% escalation on construction projects or capital projects whenever any financial expert or consultant comes in to give us guidance on our capital plans, and they say usually it's a 3% escalation. Well, you look at $100 million project, that's going up $3 million a year. So we got $3 million 1 year, and the project's gone up $3 million.
So you might as well not have gotten that $3 million.
The $3 million is very good. We're very happy we got it.
Nothing. That's what you're saying.
The positive comments we heard on that stretch of highway after it was all said and done, despite the negative comments as it was being done.
It's beautiful. I love it.
There was negative comments. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't see that.
I'm glad.
We've never heard them. No, but isn't kind of coming back to what we were talking about with Trump and what led to a Trump presidency in U.S. politics anyways, isn't that...
Yeah, Trump didn't win many outside of U.S. elections either. I don't know why you have to clarify that part, but whatever.
Whatever, man. I'm just we're talking here. The reason why I'm saying that is because isn't this what people are feeling disenchanted about when it comes to politics? Is this idea that it's supposed to run one way, but it actually runs this kind of secret, not so secret way that everybody's kind of just being cynical about, and like, yeah, you know what, it all depends on who you can send to Ottawa or who you can send to Toronto.
Well, I mean, I think that comes in on the major events, major projects. I mean, just this year, you go look at how many dollars and do the analysis of where the money was spent on the 150 celebrations and things like that. And I just, all the politicians work hard and they do work somewhat together, but I just think it's not a case of you're not going to get anything if you don't have the right person there. As I said, we've done a lot of great projects here in the city of Timmins over the last few years and had partners at both levels of government to do that. I just think you get the little extra bonus sometimes when you have a cabinet minister who's in charge of a portfolio. If you look at Timmins District Hospital, I'll say it opened during Gilles Bisson's first term, but it was given the green light when we had a Minister of Health sitting in Timmins as an MPP. So yes, Alan Pope, well minister, you know, had some pull and had some things, and we received some funding for a new hospital. Those type of things happen. You look around the province and you look at things like our courthouse that we've been lobbying for many years that you know, isn't in the right setup and whatnot. If you had a cabinet minister who could walk over to the minister and say, hey, in your funding portfolio, this is a situation going on in my riding, we could really use a new courthouse. You have that add a little bit of extra pull and whatnot to make things like that happen. But the government's set up in their funding formulas to try and treat people equally, and the funding formula works the way it does, and we'll all argue certain funding formulas aren't fair for us versus fair for other ones. We've seen that very frequently this year just in our own region with the DSAB issue. So that's going to be every government funding formula that comes out, we scrutinize and say, well, why does it punish us for having a lower population than this or a higher population than this, depending on what they're trying to do with the program. But at the end of the day, there's probably no more challenging jobs in politics than being those upper level governments and trying to find something that's fair for everyone within a province. You just can't.
Yeah, it's not possible.
You can't find something that makes every community happen. So at the same time, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the government, but it would be nice to perhaps get a few of the little extra projects that we'd like to get done.
Is that more of a commentary on how actually politics is done in province and or country, saying that they will only fund things, and like I find it's almost a knock against a government in power. And I know it's, you know, I do have party line, alignments
you're
one
attached
way
to the NDP.
I don't have that, but it's Oh yeah, I've been chased out of those freaking debates nonstop because I'm too
right wing.
Too right wing. But no, it's like it's. I find it's almost like an indictment on how politics works and how government works. That because you do not have someone there, well, you're screwed. And it's like, regardless on this is supposed to be a fair system or whatever. It's you need the bag man there. You need the guy in charge. It just seems like it's almost more of an indictment on that and how it's it sucks that that's how it works. Where would there be a party? And obviously there wouldn't be, but would there be a party that wouldn't run that way? Like that would be actually a for the people by the people type thing, where it's like, guess what? The needs are here for this reason. We're going to that for that need. We're going to fix that need, regardless of who's representing and what party they're from. Like it sucks that that's what it comes to, or it seems to come to. And
yeah, I think the challenge is, everywhere has needs, and even when you do something, and evaluate, you get everyone to submit your priorities for asset management. Everyone submits their worst roads, unless someone actually goes evaluates road A versus road B in another community versus road C. The funding doesn't necessarily go towards the best thing. My most frustrating thing is we've had 2 governments elected on infrastructure funding, campaigning that our existing infrastructure is falling apart and communities need dollars to repair their infrastructure. And every infrastructure program that rolls out is new infrastructure that wasn't
there
a thing.
before.
So innovation and technology is the word that gets thrown around by the federal government every time they give a speech.
Yep.
Well, they ran a campaign on needing to fix the infrastructure that exists so we can continue to do business and operate the way we do and fix our rail lines and fix our highways and fix our roads. But now you're only able to tap into funding if it falls into the innovation and technology. Or you look at the provincial funding and infrastructure and it's all about new transit and new this and new that. Well, again, I have a highway that is critical to the life of our community, sees over 30,000 vehicles a day. That's the infrastructure funding that most residents in the city of Timmins wanted to see.
So you're saying build a light rail all the way down to Alcuin?
No.
Jay. Monorail.
Monorail. Yeah, Corey and I only watched Simpsons growing up. That's it. We can sing the song right now. Word for word.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. Is like we should build a monorail. That's exactly what we should do. No, it's interesting that you say that because it's true. Like there was so much hysteria around, like you say, the last, especially the last federal election, about this idea that we've got the crumbling roads and bridges, right? Like that seems to be the trope that everybody goes around to. But this idea that we need to refurbish all of these structures, existing structures, and not build new stuff. And I don't know, I can only imagine that it's frustrating to, like you say, the Connecting Link project, to not get funding for something like that and see something that gets funded that's a new project, right? So I don't know how, like, what the solution to something like that is, because I feel like governments at every level are lacking funds to go around. Period. Is that that seems to be the reality? I think that's always the big challenge, right? There's only so much in the pot, and they have every MPP from every region, regardless of color, telling them that they have a project in their community that is critical and needs to be done because it is the most important project in that region. So sometimes, unless you get a system that can go across and evaluate and really judge them equally, you're never going to get that, because everyone goes with their number one issue to the pot and says, this is dire for my community, because that's what they hear back home. And meanwhile, you can go from one community to another and see that, okay, this is the worst case scenario for your community. Well, it's really not that bad. And when we had the call with the Connecting Link discussing, why didn't we get funding this year? And then they sent the letter saying you don't get your money this year. And if you want to know any more information about it, please call this number. So we called the number and said, okay, let us know where we're at. You committed $3 million last year and it's a $121 million project, and now you're gone. So let us know where things are at. And they told us, they said, we had 57 applications for the funding, and there's not enough funding in the pot, even though it's more than there was historically, to do them all. And they were trying to knock off as many small projects as they could. Again, probably a good election move if you can
do as many small projects in communities and complete their highway projects and not hear from them for the next couple of years because you finished their connecting link project because they have a smaller connecting link because it's only maybe a couple kilometers long, then that community is very happy going into an election saying, yep, the government came and fixed our highway, we're good to go. Whereas if you look at Timmins and say, even if we dump $3 million in this year, they're still going to have $117 million left going into the election. They're not going to be happy. They still need another $117 million, especially with the feedback they got after the first stretch was done by some saying that it wasn't the right project and when the government gives you $3 million, they expect you to celebrate and talk about how great the government is and how great the project was. And
so is this a problem, this idea that everything all this stuff's got to be done on the basis of election cycles? Like I understand that we've all kind of accepted this as a reality. It's what we do, and now we just kind of look at everything through the prism of what can get somebody reelected. But are we all willing to kind of say that that's an issue because shit doesn't get done or things don't get done in the proper priority? To
be fair, that's just our view of things looking in, right? Unless you're sitting in any of those government chairs saying, you know what, this is how we evaluate them. And yes, Timmins has an important project, but so does 100 other municipalities in the province of Ontario. So it's easy for us to feel jolted every time we don't get some funding or we don't take it up. And often we cling to that. I mean, we've been opposition now for all but one term of the last 26, 28 years. So that's the easy thing for Timmins to default to. But you could probably go to several Liberal ridings right now who would say, yeah, we're not getting funding either. So that's just our perception. And I'm fair to, and I want to be fair to our representatives too and say, I get it. That may just be our perception of things, and things may work a little differently if you're actually sitting in the room and whatnot. And I've had discussions with cabinet ministers, and I went through this. And I said, listen, I get that you can't make a funding formula that works for everyone. However, this is my issues with the funding formula, and we get nailed 4 times, penalized in this penalty because you penalize based on an X, Y, Z criteria, and we're at the bottom of all of them. So by the time we get our dollars, it's pretty slim pickings. So I don't want to be completely fair to the up-level governments or make it seem, because I'm sure there's Liberal ridings out there provincially and federally who are saying, we got a big project that we're trying to get done and it's critical to our community and we're still not getting the funding to do it. So
it can get frustrating from the point of view of I can just imagine that being such a shitty job to have to do, right? Like you're more or less at the top of the pyramid and you got to kind of distribute the money where it should go, and there's not enough money to go around everywhere. You're not going to get every project done. So I guess there is some level of sympathy to be had or to be given at those levels. And
no sympathy. I still want my money. We still need to fix our highway.
Quote in the Daily Press tomorrow. Steve Black, give me my money.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? Even we make decisions with our funding and have to break them up between road projects and other projects and make the best we can with the funds that we have. And there's always going to be people that say, well, you're spending money on X when you should be spending money on Y or Z, and those are the decisions that have to be made around the table. So
well, it's like at every level, right? Like I think everybody gets to see that a little bit more municipally. Like you were talking about how they'll decide funding for different road projects throughout the province. Well, those discussions happen even municipally, right? Yeah. Like some people feel like their own road needs to be repaired before another one, yet there's a whole formula for how that, and I'm assuming there's a whole formula for how that gets.
And that's the challenge, right? Usually on our roads we have a couple criteria that go into it. So it's the number of vehicle counts that go across it. There's whether there's any infrastructure underneath that needs to be repaired, water, sewer that needs to be repaired. And then the status of the road itself. And when you look at the number of vehicles, well, if you got a small rural area whose road's in bad shape, but you have a road that sees 1,000, 5,000 vehicles a day that's also in bad shape, which one do you do? The one that sees 20 vehicles or the one that sees 3,000, 5,000 vehicles? And that's part of the problem we have in Northern Ontario is the provincial government's looking at it and says, I got 13.5 million people and 10 million people are in this core area and 3.5 million are elsewhere. Do I do the project that's going to benefit 3.5 million or 10 million? So, that's the nature of the game. We are a low population area, and decisions sometimes take that into account.
Yeah, and sometimes and I think we're quick to, and myself included, quick to frame that in a
You've always
political
been quick,
context,
though. I've heard from many girlfriends. That's always been the issue.
Our wives are going to do a
going there.
podcast one day.
They're supposed to. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'll be their guest.
Yes. I've been quick, or we're quick to frame it in a political context to say, oh, you know what, so and so has that representation, and that's the only reason they're getting money. And
Well, you know,
sometimes it really is about that. It's allocating resources where they're going to be the most effective, right?
You know, the biggest shocking day for Timmins will be if they do get that cabinet minister and they're still not getting the projects
No
that,
shit.
that,
Yeah,
that they
that's
think, because that is the mentality up here, and I agree with it to some extent, and feel there is that potential for influence, but Lord help the mayor who's in power when a cabinet minister's in Timmins and he doesn't get his project done, and then what
When Mr. McGee's in mayor.
what do you have what do you have to fall backwards on, right? So as I said, I want to be fair to our representatives and the governments at all. They have tough decisions and they get paper applications, right? You got guys sitting in Toronto making decisions without getting out to visit the actual projects and say, where are we going to allocate the money this year? The culvert in Timmins, the culvert in Waterloo, the culvert in Hamilton, and they go through the criteria and try and pick based on paper applications.
And they don't get to see it, right? And
No.
see how it's impacting the community in different ways. And I guess it all comes down to the application itself and like how it's like those financial need applications that you would fill out in school. You just like, all right, how do I make this sound so horrible that the school will give me money?
And that was one of the discussions we had when deciding if we were going to continue with the next phase of the Connecting Link this year. And when I had the meeting with the CEO and a couple of our engineering and roads staff, and we were discussing it, and I went from both sides in that discussion saying, you know, if we do this, then the province is going to say, well, look, they're doing it themselves without us when we didn't give them money. Do we give them money next year? And then do we take the approach of, okay, you know what? The road's going to be bad enough. We're going to close the lane and call the province up and say, you got a lane of this highway closed that sees 30,000 people a day, and it's your highway that you should be funding 90% a day. Give us a call when you're ready to pay and have it reopened.
Yeah.
And those are tough discussions to have. And at the end of the day, we thought that this phase needs to be completed, and we'd go ahead this year. It's not something that we can continue to do year after year and finance it ourselves. But we're hoping in our discussion with the government, when we didn't get our money, they said, you know, we want to clear off a lot of those little projects so that we can focus on the bigger ones in the future. And we understand Timmins' issue. You've been loud and clear. And we're hoping to set ourselves up to be able to commit to that project in the future. So we're hoping that's going to come to fruition. It sounded nice on the phone, but at the end of the day, until the dollars show up and we can repair the highway, it doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
And actually, I remember talking about it with Jill about the. It's crazy how people get so mad at the municipal level about the roads not getting ready. Yet, you know, these were provincial roads downloaded onto the municipality. They're given X amount of dollars at the time, but that dollar has been long gone, and they still, you know, if you look at like the net present value of what that dollar was, it's nowhere near what it should be right now. And you know, and the people you should be mad at is the province or the feds or whoever, you know, all the senior levels of government. Yet the first people who get shat on are going to be your municipal politicians.
Of course, they're the ones you see every day.
The ones you see, and
The ones
you know?
that come and drink beer in your
Exactly.
basement with you. So.
Who else
Speaking
would
of
do that?
which,
Jeez.
Jason, do you have any? Do you
have
have
to
a
look
commercial
up.
description? And Steve, can I get you another beer?
No, I'm good with the one.
You're good with the one?
My personal trainer, if she watches the podcast, won't be happy if I have a second.
You can give her a plug if you want. Give her a plug if you want.
Who's your personal trainer?
Lisa Tremblay.
Oh,
Nice.
okay,
Nice.
right on. Nice.
She's got her work cut out for her. I'll admit it. I'm not the most energetic person to endeavor in this. But me and
Well,
my-
you got a tough job, a lot of stress, and stress.
I have a
leads to
funny
weight
story
gain.
about Lisa Tremblay. So
don't get me in any more trouble.
no,
tonight.
no trouble. Actually, it was during the last municipal election. I was door knocking, and you know, just doing my thing, knocking on the door, talking to people. And I guess I spoke to one individual and said hi to him. Gave him my little pamphlet. You know, said, hey, hope you can count on your vote. I guess I didn't get it because I didn't get it. And I, you know, walked away. But then I guess
next
someone
step.
drove by and I just smiled and I'm like, oh, well, hi, you know, just gave a wave. And I then get a message on Facebook saying, hi, I guess I was driving down the road and I saw some man who looked at me, smiled and waved, and drove by, and I thought, what a weird person waving at me and just talking to me. Like, who just does that? And then when I got home, I spoke to, I guess, her spouse, who said, oh, this guy just knocked on my door, and on her door, and started talking about, running for election. He was a very nice guy, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, I realized it was you. Sorry about that. Blah, blah, blah. That was Lisa. That was funny. That was so I guess
it's a small community.
So before you go to your commercial, speaking of your door knocking days, municipal election coming up. Are you going to be knocking on doors?
Jason.
My plan as it is I got to use those signs again, or the wife's going to beat me. So I most likely, as of now, I most likely will probably put my name in.
Will probably
may run. So leading towards yes. It all depends on what happens between now and then. But yeah, I got to use those signs back up. They were bloody expensive. I did not expect that.
Jay's campaign song is going to be a Shaftman. May run.
Who will be at Stars Thunder?
Yes, the Shaftman.
My old man played for band. That's why I was saying it.
They played hardball to get that contract signed. Open for April 1.
They held out. They're making more than Keith Urban. It's weird.
Weird. No one's outraged about that. Jesus.
Nobody talked about it until this podcast. It's weird.
Broke the news here.
Wait, can you confirm that? No?
Well, I guess I should put out the announcement of all the additional acts. I believe they've already posted several of the groups that we're adding. We are adding a large contingent of local or regional or people with local ties to be the opening acts on each of the nights to hold people over between when the gates open and the main acts go on the stage. And the Shaftmen is definitely one of the bands that will be playing. So
look forward to get it called.
We're excited to have them on and see how it goes from there, and put that announcement out with the rest of them in the next couple of days, although most of them are floating around the social media world saying, hey, can't wait to be there.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you announce and don't really wait for somebody to announce for you. Oh yeah, this thing's happening, but we got a show down at the working class. Make sure you get your ass there.
All right, so I'm going to say this little beer description. My tongue's getting a little beer filled.
This is pretty, would you call this malty?
I don't know, it's tasty.
It's very tasty.
It's actually very flavorful. I'm actually surprised. All right, so this is I just grabbed this one. I didn't even know anything about this one. It's a Granville Island. I'm saying Grains. Dear Lord, I screwed up on the first word. Granville Island Brewing Company out of British Columbia. It's the Lions Winter Ale with some big, beautiful statuesque lions on it. The commercial description is, winter is coming, and you're going to like it. With the complex layers of vanilla, coca, and caramel, our Lions Winter Ale gives you plenty to get warm and cozy with. This brew is nicely balanced, so the sweeter flavors don't overwhelm. You could call it the ultimate winter comfort brew. I know we're almost summer, but it feels like winter today with the rain. But tomorrow will feel.
It's supposed to snow.
You could call it the ultimate winter comfort brew, perfect with cream-based soups and other winter comfort foods.
Cream-based soups.
Yep. So if you want your Campbell's cream of mushroom and this.
All that aside, it was a pretty decent beer.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
It's flavorful.
It's got a lot of flavor.
Have you heard of this bit?
No, I've never heard of Granville Island Brewing. So usually for the past 4 podcasts, we've been drinking nothing but full beard stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways,
now we change it up.
Represent the locals.
Yeah.
So that said, what are our ratings? Because we like to give these out of 10 ratings.
I'm not sure for a winter ale what this compares to other ones. I don't know, but I really like this taste. I will give it a 9. I actually really enjoy this. Yeah.
Wow, that's up there and some of the best beer you've ever drank.
Mm-hmm.
And yourself, Steve?
People probably know I might be a little more critical than Jason, so I'll give it an 8.
It's a real politician's answer. I'm going to give it a 7.5. I feel like the flavors are a little too much. It's
too
not
much?
Yeah, it's too sweet.
Too sweet. It's like good. A dessert beer. That's the thing I like about it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
I feel like I'm eating a
cream of mushroom soup.
I feel like you guys are on polar opposites on this.
We are.
Yeah.
We're polar opposites for a lot of stuff.
Jay enjoys a lot of the Coors Light offerings.
Hey, if you want to send me anything swag, I will love Coors Light.
We've said this multiple times on the podcast that we will sell out at any time.
Yeah, no one send a shit.
Anytime. Well, sell out. No, apparently we've already sold out to City Hall.
Yes, we've been told this.
When we had the first podcast with you, I don't know if you read any of the comments that came after that, but it was still to this day our most viewed podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. And we had the most reach with it, and some of the messages and comments that we got after that were amazing. It was incoherent, very incoherent, lack of punctuation, and a lot of accusations of us being propaganda for City Hall. We're a propaganda arm. That's the one we'll never forget. Is propaganda arm for City Hall.
I appreciate it.
Well, we are going to get our paycheck later. Yes. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I've been. We're getting that City Hall money.
I could only wager a guess where some of them hang out online.
Yeah. It's great. You know what? I am not a part of that group, but I will frequent it just to go read. And it's just, it's like a social experiment that I get, just this Schadenfreude type of thing where I just love watching it. And I can't look away. It's fantastic.
Last time you came on, though, we had talked about like the whole engaging people back and forth, and you mentioned that you had talked to somebody and that was it. It's like there's no reasoning or arguing with people online. It doesn't work.
I've done pretty well lately.
But I will agree.
To be fair, though, like 2 days later he started engaging, and then he stopped. But then he stopped.
You had a bit of a relapse. You fell off the wagon for a sec there.
Sometimes it's hard. And even recently, I read some of them, and it's hard to not engage. I think some of the most recent ones are with regards to festival sponsors and contracts they have with the city, because they give us $2,500. We want to give them $1 million contracts.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's bizarre actually to how some people actually think things work and things are processed when most of the time we put things out for tenders or RFPs and the lowest tender wins, and that's how the contract gets awarded.
Simple as that.
And council really has no input in deciding who is recommended. They either accept the recommendation or they don't when it comes to the council table. So sometimes it's comical, but I have done much better, especially in the last month or two, and
absolutely
not engaging.
I think you'd have to go check out the Real Timmins Facebook group.
Oh, God.
And now the people are running so low on material that they are screenshotting old posts.
Old stuff, yeah.
And they are reposting it.
And the posts they're doing, they're cutting
it's like they missed the engagement. Here's what he said 6 months ago.
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome. So many people checked it out. But they're cutting out the first 2/3 of the conversation and putting this section like, look at what he said. Well, he responded to something that was brought up to him. Like, really? And what he's saying is, like, first of all, they're saying that's horrible. It's like, well, what he said actually isn't that bad. Like, I don't know where this angst and this anger is coming from. It's like, all right, yeah, he asked this or he mentioned this.
I'm waiting for the one person to just kind of piece together, like copy paste all these pictures or these letters in different fonts, like a ransom letter, and it just turns into it's like Steven Black,
the Zodiac killer,
and this giant racist rant, just ridiculous stuff. People online are insane, and it seems like just the fact that you don't have to talk to people face to face and you don't have to engage them in like polite conversation.
You're not making friends.
You know what? I've spent way less time.
You are definitely the city's propaganda machine right now. You're in trouble after this one. And to be honest with you, at some point you have to accept they're entitled to their opinion and entitled to state. A lot of them go way too far and cross the line of freedom of speech and get into libel, slander, and things like that. And if I was like others, I'd go ask some lawyers to do some pro bono work or follow up on it. But
speaking of that, how's that relationship going?
It's up and down.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That's another thing.
I saw he issued an apology.
Yes, he
did. For that
half apology.
Well, I mean,
no, it is what it is, and that's another one of those things that you just have to accept. And I've tried to. I mean, we'll have some more discussion, I'm sure, in the near future as when integrity commissioners and so forth come in. But it's been a struggle. It's obviously it's really been the one downside to this role.
Yeah.
People ask me every day if I'm still enjoying my job and still like being mayor and still like the decision that I made, and I do. I love it. I mean, earlier today I was at a welcoming for our Syrian refugee family that we brought in, and there's been a lot of good things that have happened in the community, but some of the stuff, and it seems like it's fed from the online. Someone posts something online and all of a sudden it needs to be a pressing question at council or a pressing question to email staff. I've been informed, or I have on good information that this is what transpired. And
so, no, you saw it on Facebook.
And you know, I mean, it's been tedious.
Yeah, and
I've tried over the last, really, I'll just say most recent few weeks, month, to really just accept it for what it is and start giving as short of answer as I can and not get into the personal stuff back and forth, because it doesn't get anywhere. I mean,
but it's fun for us to watch.
Yeah, it is. I was telling Jay before you came on that you know, when there are council meetings, and I haven't been following them like I should lately, but I always check Facebook the next day to see for a Timmins Today article that says insults hurled, tempers flared, anything with that kind of stuff, then it means I gotta go go watch it. But I guess that's kind of the stuff you're referring to that's making your life difficult. So I mean,
and the thing is, I mean, it's always such little things, you know. I mean, if I go through the number of little things that we've had issues over this term, there was the fact that I brought my kids to an MRCA meeting, and they sat in the next room and colored and came in and asked me a question in the middle of the meeting and then left back out in the room. And there was the fact that me and the CAO authorized staff to move a bench. There was the fact that I smiled. There was there's been so many things, and most recently it was the fact that I wore a t-shirt from a company during a proclamation. And I know what my day-to-day life is and the issues that we're discussing, and meeting with investors from China and working on the festival and working on industrial oil parks, government applications, legal matters. And it's just tiring to have that as the main focus when things come to council and not be talking the bigger picture. How do we develop a youth retention strategy? How do we incentivize industry to come locate in Timmins, you know, things like that we could get. What do we do to make our case for an English-based university, seeing as we're the only
northern of the 5
northern regional hub without one?
Do you feel like there's some level to this, that, because to me I feel like this particular person has taken the mantle of champion of the people, right? You know, questions come to me, I bring those to council, and I urge people to discuss them, and it's important. Like you say, right? Something gets posted online, I have it on good information that so-and-so was doing this and blah, 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 and that person who made the original comment feels validated. I feel as though they're, you know, it's really... It can weigh you down, but do you feel like the majority of the people in the population of Timmins are seeing beyond that, understand that, you know what, it's not about the petty stuff, the petty character attacks and all of that. It's about what you're talking about here, like the strategies that the city's undertaking to improve the community.
It's tough to say, right? Because obviously every person sitting around that table, we all have our different views and our different opinions on issues, and everyone feels they have the support of their supporters behind them. That's why they keep doing what they're doing. They think that's what the people want. I think what I'm doing is what the majority of the people want. He or they or she or they think, just so we're all inclusive here.
He or they or she or they.
Do what they believe their supporters and the people want. And I'm sure they get it on, because people who support that mentality are drawn to those individuals who represent that mentality around the table. So I'm sure they hear on a frequent basis from everyone in the community who feels we can't trust anyone there, or we need to do this and we're wasting money here. They hear from those people and keep up the good work. You know, run for mayor in 2018. I hope they all do. And then on the flip side, I get stopped on a frequent basis by people I don't know, and people in the community that say, you know, Steve, I don't know how you have the patience you do sitting around the table on a Monday night, or I don't know how you put up with what you do. And the thing is, Monday nights is only part of it, you know, the back and forth. And I accept, and I've accepted in emails that I contribute to some of the back and forth between us too, and I've stepped over the line in some of the comments I make when I get frustrated about the issues that are being discussed through emails as well. Guilty as charged, and I'm sorry, and it's not going to take me a long time to say it. It's just a point of how frustrated it is, and I've had members of council say, Steve, we see it's getting to you now, it's frustrating you, you just need to ignore it. Just let it go, let them do whatever they want, and just move on and keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot of good things going on in the community, a lot of changes that when they're out on the streets, they hear positive things about what we're doing and positive things that are going on about the city. And I get stopped every day, and people tell me how they're excited they are, or, you know, we really want this, or keep going with this. It's good to see some change and some proactive change in the city, and some work being done on our connecting link and our roadways. So I'm sure they get feedback from the opposite side as well. And at the end of the day, you only really know which the majority of the population supports when it comes to election day, and one or the other is sitting there next term, or both, or neither. Then you know how the people judge what you've done this term.
How they feel, right?
And I can just say I love 90% of what I do in this role. And
90%.
It
that
does.
10% is horrible.
That 10% of going to council meetings and having this back and forth political, because that's what most of it is political based and political gesturing. You can make your point, you can be against something, and when the vote is done, you need to accept it. I mean, how many times have we had questions or issues raised about the festival? The festival was approved 6 months ago. Yeah. I mean, if I go scroll, and you can scroll through, I guarantee you won't see one post on that individual's page saying, hey, this is going to be a great event in our community. Go and buy your tickets at this location. And you would think any city councillor of a community hosting this style of event, whether they supported the event or not, now that it's moving forward, would want to take those opportunities and promote it and encourage ticket sales and encourage people they know to support and get out of it. And I've heard I've seen the opposite, where there's posts, you know, saying, I'll be on the fence with the other people that won't be in attendance on the so that's the tiring portion of it. Is there's no, I had, as I mentioned last time, I had many heated debates with Councillor Doody or others around the table last term, and at the end of the night, we always said, you know, good debate, smiled, have a good night, and we went home, and the issue was done, it was voted on, it was over. And if a subcomponent of that issue came back to the table to support with the city moving ahead of it, you supported it, because that's the direction the city's going. If you're throwing a festival and you have a vote on having portable toilets at the festival, you vote in favor because you want portable toilets at your festival, because it would be illegal not to have them there.
Exactly.
And I've mentioned this many times where give me where I've argued this and said, like, okay, I understand you guys are not for, you know, some of these people might not be for this festival. You've made your vote loud and clear. The vote has been done. It's over. The fact that every time there's a subsequent vote about this thing, you vote no just because you are in opposition of this event. Yeah, sure. Oh, it goes for the water.
To be honest, though, but there was, I think, at one point, a unanimous vote in favor of the festival, and that was the most relieving day of my life. I forget what the issue was, but finally it was, you know, we need to support this, and it's happening, and everyone voted in favor, and I thought, wow, things might be changing.
But I just find this crazy that it's, all right, and some of these people have created the atmosphere where now that there's a vote coming up, they're saying no right away, and they go into the why we should not be having this event. And I find that just, instead of them inputting on, you know, portable toilets, where they might have, like, you know what, have we considered this, have we considered that, they don't bring that up, and they might have valid points. They do not do it. It does not come up. So, and they're going to say no. So everyone else who might have wanted to say something, say, you know what, I'm just going to vote yes. I don't want to get part of this, because it creates this atmosphere of animosity that there's nothing growing. There's nothing coming up from these discussions, which has always driven me nuts. And you're kind of saying things that kind of emphasize.
Well, everybody gets frustrated by that. I remember we talked to Noella. She was our first political guest to come on, and she talked about the exact same thing.
And first woman.
That is very true. Yeah. Yes,
one of the few.
We haven't had a whole lot of ladies on the podcast,
which we get yelled at by our wives. So,
yeah. Anyways, let's all kind of hum. But No, she was saying the exact same things. That people just felt like it was deflating, and that the community's not moving forward, and it was starting to affect the people around the table. And obviously that's the case. But I don't know. I've got high hopes for the future that things, everybody who's around there really believes in what they're doing for the community, and is not going to get brought down by the negative.
Well, and even to that, like I do
there.
think all 8 people that sit around that table with me do what they perceive as the community wanting.
Yeah.
And that is the perception of a couple, is that there's this vast majority that are opposed to the festival. I don't get that when I go out. Seeing 10,800 tickets sold in Timmins, I don't get the same feedback. I do know there's people out there that disagree that we should have done this, or that it should have been to this extent, and that's fine. But people have come around, and 10,800 people who have bought tickets in Timmins, that's 2,300 people more than voted for me.
That's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it.
I had former Mayor Vic Power in my office one day, and he was asking me about the festival and whether it was going to break even and my thoughts on it. And he says, well, what kind of feedback are you getting? And I said, well, Vic, the best feedback I can give you is that 10,800 people in Timmins have bought tickets, and that's more than elected me as mayor. So I said, there's obviously a good number of people that support it as well.
People are happy.
The counter side will say, well, that leaves 30,000 people that haven't bought tickets. So
all those kids,
anyone who hasn't bought tickets isn't supporting it. So you can never win that dynamic, right? And I believe that fundamentally all 8 honestly believe that they're taking the right approach, and they're fighting for the things that should be fought for, just after spending 4 years with a council that was a completely different dynamic and didn't fight about the little issues, and tried to focus on getting through the items on the agenda. And I remember before the CEO retired, he told me in the first year he had more emails from this council than he did the entire last term. That's a statement of the interaction going on behind the scenes, and the constant requests for reports or information behind the scene that doesn't come through the proper channels of
which isn't a bad thing, I guess, in a way, but it does kind of bog shit down.
Or is it collusion?
Oh,
Jason?
There you go. Yeah. Why are you wearing that
There's
t-shirt?
a word.
Why were you wearing that t-shirt?
I see you have a Northern College pin on.
I do. It's their 50th anniversary this year.
That's right. Yeah. My father-in-law has just retired from teaching at Northern College, so no, that was another the whole Northern College trailer site there debate that went on. That was a whole other event that really, and they withdrew their application. So
well, they did. And at the end of the day, there's no hotel on that end of town, so our shuttle stop was going to be at Northern College to allow people booking to stay at Northern College to get to the festival site. I don't know what the planned shuttle is for that side, but you'd have businesses, the mall across the street that would have had visitors and so forth in supporting it. And I understand some of the concerns that were raised, and some of them with how the notice went out encompassing the entire property instead of the parking lot. But again,
well, I'm going to say something that you're probably not going to say, but I feel like people need to fucking deal. Because, like...
Steve, will you say that?
No.
Word for word?
He is right. I will not say that.
Because, honestly, like, when I hear somebody complain, and I watch that city council meeting, and you don't, you can tune out for this part if you want, but when I watched that council meeting and people were complaining about potential for smoke coming over the highway and into the yards of the people behind Porcupine Mall, this is a whole not in my backyard syndrome. This whole idea that people like, oh, you know what, like they probably would have no problem with this if it was at the other end of town or if it was somewhere else. Like, if you're mildly inconvenienced for an event this large that's going on in Timmins, I think you just need to, like,
suck it up.
Just suck it up. Really. And I feel like
think of the children, Corey.
Okay, but that was a different argument. Like,
so regardless, think of the children.
There are so many
Not
hypotheticals about people relieving themselves in front of kids and like what?
Who doesn't do that?
No, but I just felt like a lot of this stuff was imagined and they're thinking of every possible thing that could potentially happen, not realizing that. I don't know what the plan is for having those sites secured, or if there's security kind of coming around or anywhere, right? But I would assume that there's going to be some level of not supervision, but making sure that people aren't doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Like if I was to relieve myself in a creek. When there's a school, when there's kids outside playing at school, like the cops would be called, and they'd be like, hey, "This guy's just doing this, right?"
But Corey, what if there was full-fledged drunken orgies during the day? What would you do about that? What if it happened? Egg on your face.
You guys are digressing quickly.
Exactly. I'm just saying. What if that happens? At the end, don't you look a fool?
At the end of the day, I mean, there was some valid concerns in the arguments made. And then there was some what if hazardous scenarios of people emptying their trailer somehow from the parking lot into the lake and things like that. That at the end of the day, it was just easier. We had enough people volunteering sites and enough prospects in the line to move on to the next one and not go through that being championed how it was championed. And at the end of the day, I respect it. I also was called from some businesses who said, we wanted that there. It would have been great to have 40, 50, 60 families staying across the street from our businesses.
That restaurant that's opened up in...
So you get both sides, and obviously it's a big one. Some communities that throw on these festivals pass an exemption to their bylaw and let people camp in whatever driveway places, and people rent out their driveways to camp. People rent out their front yards to camp, and
I thought that was going to happen.
And you get things like that going on in some of the communities. So, but in their first or second year, it probably wasn't embraced like that either. It takes time to develop these things, and takes time for people to adjust. And people's natural instinct does fall to the what if. How bad could this be versus what is it actually going to be, and what benefits are there from it. So I respect that there was some concerns in that area, and we were able to accommodate, so it was fine. It was frustrating during the time, but
you're a very
life moves on.
Fair person.
I try to be.
Corey and I, not so much.
No, we don't extend that much goodwill to people, and but you do make a point. Like people who aren't used to these festival environments and don't really understand that it's pretty self-controlled. They just think of this as chaos, right? Like people are going to be all over the place, and it's going to be a bunch of party animals just burning the goddamn place down.
And I think when you look at some festivals that do have the on-site camping and whatnot, it is a big party for the week, and it's self-contained to that site and whatnot. But when you're breaking people up into, groups of 30 campers of families coming in from all different cities and whatnot, I don't think it was going to be what it was made out to be. But we were very capable of accommodating elsewhere, and we still have plenty of RV sites left that may not end up being required. So at the end of the day, it wasn't a major issue from a festival perspective, so we were happy to move on. And if that made the residents in that area a little happier and a little more supportive of what was coming, then so be it.
All the better, right? Well, on that note, we are coming up on the 2-hour mark. Another long podcast with our mayor. We always got a lot to talk to you.
I wasn't here for the full 2 hours.
No, that's true. We did about a half hour without you. We just talked shit on you for like half an hour before this. But that said, where can people go and get some more information? Anybody who hasn't gotten their Stars and Thunder tickets, where can they go and get their tickets? Can they order them online still?
So you can either go to City Hall and buy your tickets in person on the first floor at City Hall, or you can go to starsandthunder.com, and there's a link to the ticketing site from there. And we also have the festival t-shirts that are now on sale, so people can go online and get their t-shirts, and there's a very limited number of t-shirts available, so I would encourage people to get their t-shirts sooner than later if they want one.
Awesome. All right. Well, also people can follow you on social media, but you're staying very low key these days.
I'm still on social media. I try and avoid some of the other pages and engaging like I have previously. most recently, there was a nice post about visiting the SK class by the father of the child who invited me.
that.
So I went and I made a comment on that one, just saying thanks, and it was my pleasure. But other than that, I try and stay off the other people's pages, and most of the people can't be on my page that just want to be there and be negative and criticize. So at the end of the day, I got more important things to worry about than someone who wants to swear, curse, or complain.
I gotta work myself onto
Keeping
the ban list of Steve Black's.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get there. I'll get there.
All right. Well, Jason,
make for a long 4 years next term if you're there.
All right. Well, Jason, do you have any words of wisdom to sign us off on this podcast? He doesn't. He's just looking at me. Oh,
Absolutely not.
I don't.
Absolutely not. I got nothing.
Was it? No, I think he gave the liquor before beer. You're in the clear, right?
Yeah. I got
Okay. Well, on that one, thanks for joining us. We're hoping to get these done a little bit more regularly now. We're gonna get back on the wagon and start churning out some good podcasts for you guys. So make sure you've subscribed if you haven't subscribed, and keep liking us and sharing us all over social media. All right. So on that note, cheers.
Cheers.
And you guys have yourself a great week. Thanks a lot for coming in, Steve.
My pleasure.